So it's a publications session this time, and we're going to hear about the publication submission process, author blocks. Mary Saltz and Julie will be talking about that, and the publications webpage walkthrough, and this whole publications governance process has been a huge deal. Very crucial to N3C, I think very productive, and it's really, from what I could see, going extremely well at this point. So I think there is a feeling that the community should hear about that, and people have heard, obviously, a bunch of presentations from people who have published things and have gone through the publications committee. So next slide, please. Things continue in terms of data ingestion. So I guess we have 56 sites of data released, 88 sites have executed data transfer agreements. It's remarkable. We're on to our second year, and some of our projects are having to be renewed. We have 219 sites with data use agreements executed. Next slide. So I think this is now Mary Saltz and Julie McMurry. And I gather, Julie, you're going to be sharing your slides.
Yes, that's right. Thanks.
Great. Thanks.
Hi, Julie.
Hi. I'm just going to share my screen, Mary, in the interest of convenience, but you'll be the one to get us kicked off, okay?
Sounds like a plan. Thank you, Julie.
Mm-hmm. And if someone else could put the link to the slides in chat for anyone who would like them at the ready.
Well, what I'd like to say is that this is a team effort. The publication committee has had a long journey to get to where we are today. And I think that a lot of thanks goes to Julie and Christine Suver for helping support and guide this process from the beginning to where we are today. And I won't take very much of your time, but if I could have the next slide, please. I just give you an overview of what we're going to be talking about today, why we're here, what do we do, and then Julie and Jeremy will take it away with the real nitty-gritty of what do you need to do to get stuff done, what do we need to see when we look at your manuscripts. And what is it that we want to see? What is our purpose? Well, it's multifold, but one of the things we want to do is to make sure that there's proper fuss and furor and excitement around all of the publications that come out of N3C. And also all of the podium presentations and posters. So if you look for just a moment at the right-hand screen, you can see that we want to hear about all of the posters and accepted podium presentations, but not for us to look at them and help you or criticize them or do anything, just so that we know that they're there, that we can tabulate them and promote them for you. Now, full manuscripts, we like to look a little bit more carefully so that anything that's going out of N3C is under the guidelines set up by N3C. And this can be sometimes a little bit confusing. And we try to help make sure that all publications, full manuscripts that is, are in concordance with the DUR, that all of the people who helped create this manuscript, the consortial authors, are attributed appropriately, that the acknowledgements are in the paper. We try to look and make sure that there aren't any gross overlaps with other projects. If there are, we try to at least acknowledge and let the authors know about that. And we also want to make sure that the authors have stuck to their download policy. So you see, this is part, the authors have to say, yes, we did this. And then our job is to confirm and make sure that we agree that yes, the DUR is appropriate, that yes, the data download cell size is okay, that we aren't giving away inadvertent information that we don't want to, that you can't back compute and see that actually there are only 2 people of that sort. And Julie has been incredible in facilitating the consortial authorship and attribution, because it's a lot of work. And so we try to help you do that and not just say, hey, go ahead. We help gather the names together, the paperwork together, because each and every consortial author has to say, yeah, I did that, and tell someone what did they do. And once this is done, then it is our job and our pleasure to promote and track published manuscripts. Next, please. So this is our committee, and it's quite an amazing committee. And I'm just going to go through a little bit of who these folks are. They're all volunteers from the N3C committee. And let's see, Christine Suver is with an expert on data sharing and governance and open science. And she is a governance lead in N3C and for our committee, and is outstanding. Amit Saha is a scientist who specializes in data analytics, statistical analysis, and process management. Next is Carolyn Bramante, who's been incredibly active in N3C as a clinical investigator in internal medicine, pediatrics, and the study of obesity. As I go through this, you can see we have a very varied group of reviewers. Federico Mariona is in maternal fetal medicine and works with prenatal diagnoses and maternal mortality. So that's really very interesting. Jeremy, I think many of you know Jeremy, so I will leave it to him to introduce himself as he talks to you later. Swaroop is from Hopkins and is an expert on machine learning, epidemiology, biostatistics, and clinical trials. Wendy Hernandez did not give me her area of expertise. Bad Wendy. Wendy is she's in Chicago, and one of our most thorough and interested reviewers. A PhD and a young scientist, brings a great deal to the table. Victor Garcia is my fault. I was able recently to grab Victor, who is a recent graduate of clinical informatics at Stony Brook. And he is an internist, a board certified internist and informatician, and has been working a lot with the diabetes team at N3C. Everybody knows Melissa and Chris, who have provided a great deal of guidance for us as we've run into some unexpected problems, and have been a great deal of help to us in navigating some of these situations. Again, the same with Anita. Everybody knows Anita. Liz is new to the publication committee, Liz Zampino, as a project manager, and Gabriella is our intern and absolutely fabulous. So that was really the most of what I wanted to do, is just emphasize to the group how this diverse membership of our committee brings a great deal of support to all of your work. And Julie, I think you want to take over from here.
Yes, Jeremy's going to actually present this next slide.
Okay.
Fantastic. And I'll just add with Mary, it's a very welcoming group, and we're always looking for more people to volunteer for the publication committee. It does require some time from all of us, and there is occasional turnover. So if it's something you're interested in, please contact Mary and let her know, and Julie. So this is our project lifecycle overview. So long before you get to the publication committee, you're going to be looking at working on your DUR. You're going to hopefully be engaged with a domain team. In an ideal world, we are going to strongly recommend that you get engaged with a domain team. It doesn't mean that you won't necessarily find out about a project that is being worked on in another domain team at the end of the road when you're about ready to publish. But it does mean that you are more likely to know about the work that's being done. We have a lot of crossover between the different domain teams. And when you are working in a silo on your own individual project, you are less likely to know, someone else is also working on this widget, this different thing. So within the domain teams, you assemble your team, you submit your DUR. Authors should always first assess DUR overlap. So making sure that your DUR is not also the same as 3 other people's. You should also go look at your DUR and make sure that your DUR is aligned with what you're publishing on. We do check that within the publication committee over here at this blue box. And if you have something that your publication does not seem to directly align with your DUR, it does mean that we go ask questions of our governance committee, who then has to do some extra reviews. So the more that you can do ahead of time, the better. Within the data access committee, so this is the committee where you go make the request to do downloads. They have the DUR alignment as well. They analyze, I'm sorry, you are going to make sure your DUR aligns. You are going to do your analysis within the data enclave. That third request, that third box is the download requests. And that's where the data access committee is going to review it, make sure that you are following all the terms in publication, and make sure that your cell sizes aren't too small, that you're not looking at a protected population, and then you're going to write your draft manuscript. All of that is done before it gets to us at the publication committee. When we get the document, your publication, we do look to make sure that you're using consistency with your DUR. We look at your cell sizes and make sure they're okay. If you notice this big note at the bottom, it's not just okay to have less than 20. You also have to make it so that we can't impute that less than 20. So if you're giving me a total number of people who are engaged, if you give me a total of 600 and there are 400 females, I can impute that there are 200 males. And so if it was 25 total and 22 and 3, we're going to flag that within the publication committee and ask you to find a way to modify your publication so that it's scrubbed. We're also going to go through, work with you to make sure that you are giving appropriate attributions for the consortial contributions, as well as promote manuscripts when published. And Julie, I think that's it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I should have clarified here that this is more oversight than what is being done. So the data access committee is not doing the analysis or anything like that, but they are kind of overseeing this box of things. Okay, let me move, whoops. Sorry, I accidentally clicked. Yes, so I just want to walk you through a typical timeline. The committee meets on Thursdays, which means that if you want us to be able to vote on your manuscript, please be sure to submit it the Friday before the Thursday. So this would be that it gets sent out for review on Monday, sometimes over the weekend as well. And then it would be discussed and voted on Thursday. As soon as the manuscript comes in, it is sent out for core contributor invitations for what we're calling author blocks, and we'll go over that. We give 3 business days for people to respond. And so typically this is happening when we get back to you on the voting status. We'll also get back to you with the responses to the declared contributions to the manuscript. On following the committee's meeting, it's discussed as to which domain teams might have work that has been implicated in the manuscript. And so we'll make some recommendations, talk through with the authors who should be invited, and then those invitations get sent. Those also have 3 days to declare contributions. And then finally, we get back to you with the list of people who have declared contributions, and you can go ahead and submit to the journal. This is what the publication intent form looks like. It's linked from the presentation as well. You can provide your manuscript one of two ways. You can either give us the link to where the document is in Google Drive and then share it with this address, or you can just email it to this address. But either way, the work of the committee doesn't start happening until we get a complete draft. And when I say complete, I don't mean that the prose has to be polished or any of that, but three key things have to be present. All of the figures and tables that you intend to submit, including any supplementary material. Number two, all of the authors that you intend to include. That doesn't necessarily mean that the order of the authors has to be final. It doesn't mean that you couldn't later add someone else, but everybody you are thinking of at the moment needs to be part of that manuscript cover page so that we can assess who the sorts of attribution issues. And then thirdly, we need to know kind of what your, what the intended time frame is for your submission. If you don't yet have a venue in mind and you are ready to go, that's fine. We will do our best to accommodate your deadlines, but it's not always possible. So we do ask for realistic timelines so that we can prioritize things accordingly. It gets challenging when we have a cluster of submissions, for instance, around EMEA. So we ask that for like key dates like that, that you give the committee a bit of extra time. As Mary mentioned before, the things that we look for are alignment with your DUR, compliance with the authorship guidelines, and adherence to policies. In terms of the things that you're required to put in the manuscript itself, there's the ICMJE statement that authorship was determined in accordance with that policy. And then there is an acknowledgement statement, as well as the requirement that you cite the N3C marker paper, excuse me. And then additionally, we ask that you cite the IDEA program grant. And it's my understanding, I'm happy to be proven wrong, it's my current understanding that this IDEA program grant should be acknowledged in all cases where an author is present who resides in an IDEA state, regardless of their institutional affiliation. I don't have the list of those states on this slide, but I can follow up later and give those to you. This is an overview of the 3-tier acknowledgement and attribution model that we've put together. So tier 1 is what we call masthead authorship. This is authorship as we all know it traditionally. It's people who show up on that title page of the manuscript. And we don't, generally speaking, get involved at this level. Who is at the level of masthead authorship is really the remit of the first and lead authors of the manuscript. So the publication committee's involvement is primarily here in tier 2 and 3. So, but I just wanted to put the masthead author here to distinguish it from consortial. So masthead authorship is substantial, intellectually important contributions made directly to the manuscript or to the work that's referenced in the manuscript. And the people who are invited, as I said, are exclusively at the direction of contact and senior authors. Consortial authors provide less substantial, but still intellectually important contributions. These are not what we sometimes refer to as comma adders, but people who have made direct contributions to knowledge artifacts that may have been used by the study. I've also got a note here that the names of the consortial collaborators occasionally overlap with those folks that are also acknowledged in text. So the people who are invited to be consortial collaborators are core contributors. That doesn't mean that all of them will declare contributions. That is just to say the core contributors will be invited, and in practice, only between like 2 and 10 people per manuscript end up declaring contributions. It's generally closer to like 2 to 5, but I'm just kind of giving you a sense. It's not like, oh, you're going to do this and then like 80 people are going to be on there. That is the very rare exception rather than the rule. So we do all of the notifying of core contributors for you. We do not expect the authors to know who these people are, keep up with the current list of people, have to manage their responses, etc. That would be too much. So we do it for you, and we give you back a list of people to include at this level. The in-text acknowledgements is all of those core contributors, but they are not indexed in Medline. So that's the key distinction between these two. So it is important for people who do a lot of thankless work, that is the backbone of everything, to be able to participate in this way. But that's not everybody that's just building the N3C infrastructure. So if you're wondering who are those people exactly that this is going to, who are the core contributors, that's this set of people. They are principal investigators, like domain team leads, subgroup and administrative leaders, their data ingest and harmonization team, the phenotype team, project management and ops, partners with NIH and other federal agencies, the analytics team, and the publication committee. If you feel that there is someone missing from this list, we are more than happy to consider them. However, we just ask that, you know, that it not become so comprehensive that there's no bright line anymore. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over now to Gabriella.
Hello, 1 second. Hope you all can see that. Yeah, so Julie and Jeremy have gone over the more nitty-gritty part of the publication committee, and so I will just be walking you through the publication review page itself and where you can access all the forms and information. And so I will be showing you how you can find the publication review page itself on the N3C website, where within the website you can find the submission forms and the other required forms, where you can find the policies that are required to be reviewed, what information, what the reviewers will be looking for when they review your manuscripts, and how you can access the publication dashboard. So as you can see here on the N3C website, you go to the resources bar and drop down to the publication review. This publication review page should open up, and this is where you will find all the information. And I will walk you through that right now. So once you're on the homepage, as mentioned, go to resources and application review. You can find the submission form, also known as the publication intent form, in the fill out and submit the N3C publication intent form is right here, bolded in blue. When you open that up, it should look like this. The other form is the N3C contributors form, as mentioned, and you can find that within the third question of the manuscript draft review on the publication review page. And that should give you the link as well. And it looks like this. The policies, the links to the policies that are required to be reviewed are embedded in this paragraph within the manuscript draft review section. The guidelines and these principles, along with the user code of conduct, are all there. In this manuscript draft review section within these questions in this paragraph is where you will find the information on what the reviewers will be looking for and checking for when they review your manuscript. In addition to that, please also be attentive to the information in the third question of this first section that talks about N3C results download policy. It's important that you review that because your data needs to be approved. And as mentioned before, reviewers will be looking to make sure that you have been approved for that, that your data has been approved. And finally, Julie also mentioned the acknowledgement statements, and in this blue box down here is where you will find more information on these acknowledgement statements that are required to go into your manuscript.
Thank you. One more thing I wanted to mention is that obviously this is a journey. It's very rare that you put a paper together and then you get it accepted right away at your journal of choice. We only need to see revisions of a manuscript if the downloads have changed or the key scientific findings have changed. We don't need to see revisions to prose. We don't need to see revisions to the color scheme you chose in a figure, but the actual content, if the actual content and findings have changed, you need to submit the revision to us as well. We ask that you, whenever communicating with the committee, always use the manuscript ID that you were issued when you first submitted for any subsequent revision or correspondence about authorship, etc. And this is important because many of you are prolific and you've got manuscripts that change, manuscripts for which you're the contact author on many, or the titles have similar topics, and it can get confusing in that situation. So this way you're sure that we're talking about the same, we're all on the same page about what the manuscript is.
Thank you. One last thing I wanted to show was the publication dashboard, just really quick. The publication dashboard is where you will find all the list of the publications. And if you go through the homepage, this in the middle here is this Explore cohort dashboard. To the very right in the last tab is this is the publication dashboard, and where all of the publications are listed. And they're categorized by different types. That is all. Thank you.
I think it would be great if we opened it up for questions. I responded to one in chat. There was a question about the version of the acknowledgements that should be included. And the full acknowledgement is encouraged regardless of the kind of manuscript that is, whether it's a consortial manuscript or not. But the web version of this really needs to be updated accordingly. It's also challenging because the roster of who is who is a core contributor does shift over time, and so we just need a process for making sure that we can keep a handle on that. So maybe Dave and I can talk about that next. This has been a build the plane, fly the plane simultaneously kind of thing, and we appreciate everybody and their understanding as we have really done our best with limited resources to make sure that this is working for everybody. We're at the bleeding edge of attribution. Not all projects do it this way. People are like, why are you, I've never done it this way. It's like, yep, it's a new process for most people. And so you're in good company if you're confused, and that's okay. We are really doing our best to push the envelope towards more comprehensive attribution, more specific attribution, so that everybody gets their name in lights. I don't know, Melissa, if you wanted to mention anything on this front.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yep.
I just wanted to applaud you, Julie, for saying that. I think it's a takes a village project. We all depend on many people to be able to do the work that we do within the N3C, and so we want to be able to take a similar type of approach towards giving people credit. So if one person, builds a terminology, another builds a code set on top of it, and then somebody else builds, a pipeline that gets used by a downstream group, there's a whole transitive chain of contributors that we want to be able to credit. And one of the really wonderful things about the system is that we can actually see those transitive relationships and the way that we're all building upon each other's work. And that's the spirit of trying to work as a community to address the pandemic. And so, all the sort of craftiness and struggles that we've gone through to try to make the publication process easy, have been hard because it's actually really complicated, and the guidelines for ICGME are not really up to date with these types of modern, very large collaborative efforts. And I think that we really are pushing the boundaries for how do we do large scale collaborative science. And so we appreciate the feedback, we appreciate the contributions, and we appreciate your patience. And we will be writing a manuscript in a collaborative fashion on our experiences and trying to design an attribution system that takes these things into account. And we would welcome everyone's contributions to that manuscript.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa. I just want to also say that we welcome questions, and if some of the policy is new to you and you may have already had a paper out there and you felt unsupported because you didn't know what the process was, please know there is no shame. It's never too late to show up now. We can at least be in the loop and figure out how to either help you through the next phase of submission or promote something if you happen to have already published or presented. We do want to be able to know about everything that touches N3C. So it has been a crazy ride. We have now more than 2,600 people involved in the research. I mean, that is certainly the largest program I've been a part of. Not all of those people are communicating and collaborating with each other, but it's just to give you a sense of the scale of this thing and to help you understand when you're up against a deadline and maybe the turnaround isn't as quick as you had hoped, to give you some context for what we're up against. So thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay, well, seeing none, I think we can adjourn. You can always feel free to reach out by either the help desk or the N3C Pub's Gmail address, and we'll do our best to help you. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. This was
Bye.
great. Appreciate it.